What we're going to do is a quick 2-minute introduction, and we'll start with John and then Steve, and then Phil here will have several questions, and we'll go back and forth and just trade. Since there's only 2 of you, we'll trade the microphone back and forth, and those responses are limited to 1 minute, and then near the end you'll have a 1-minute wrap-up or kind of candidate statement. So you have 2 minutes, then we'll do some questions, and then 1 minute to finish things up. And we really do appreciate you being here. I know it's late, and I think the rest of you need to sit down instead of try to sneak out of here. But thanks for being with us, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Hamilton.
Just want to point out to you that Dr. Ken Cherney is a candidate, but there is a school board meeting tonight, and that's why he's not here. And you may ask why we scheduled this on a school board meeting night. When you're juggling this many people that are busy, you try to pick a night that affects the fewest number of people, and that's why this night was chosen. So we're going to give each of these gentlemen a chance to make some opening comments, and we'll start with Mr. Gepp.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Gepp. I'm running for school board. And tonight I'm remembering the day my father dropped me off at Stanford to begin my freshman year. He never had the opportunity to attend college. He needed to work after high school to support his family when his dad's business failed following the Great Depression. I benefited from my parents' encouragement and a solid California public school education, which led to 2 engineering degrees and 36 years in the aerospace industry. I want to help Big Bear kids have the same opportunities and encouragement I had. Since my retirement from Boeing as engineering director, I have teamed with our middle school to help develop their science, technology, engineering, and mathematics program, or STEM. I believe STEM must be a part of our students' education in this increasingly complex world. I've been asked why I want to get involved. 20 years ago, I began recruiting for Boeing. Boeing and many other companies offering high-paying jobs need accomplished graduates in science and engineering. But I couldn't find enough of these students to fill the positions. In fact, the articulate and accomplished students I did interview were non-U.S. citizens. Our public schools are not exposing students to the wealth of learning experiences available in science and engineering. When our students go to college, they are not choosing those studies as disciplines. Good jobs are going begging. I know you want your children the best opportunities in life. STEM programs can provide our students with exciting learning experiences leading to career opportunities. Now I have the time and the background to help address this issue. I observe firsthand the challenges our teachers face with crowded classrooms. Technology will enable teachers to spend more quality time with each student and allow others to study independently. As a member of our school board, I want to help our schools provide academic experiences that expands our students' future career opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Folks, please.
Yes, my name is Steve Folks, and I've lived here most of my life. And I am running for school board because I believe our community can do a better job educating our children. Clearly, our schools are facing significant challenges. We are in the middle of the conversion to the Common Core state standards, which is requiring a great deal of effort on the part of our teachers. Our district is deficit spending and is projecting that reserves will be below state mandated minimums in 2 years. Enrollment is dropping. I believe it, at least in part, because a growing number of parents are dissatisfied and are pursuing other options. These are serious issues facing our schools. I don't have a magic bullet to solve these problems, but I do believe my background and experience here in Big Bear will be helpful as the school board addresses these critical issues. Another area of concern to me is how well are we actually preparing our students for college and careers. The school district has very lofty goals. We want to create lifelong learners. We want to prepare our children to be good global citizens for the 21st century and do a lot of the things that John just said. We want to make sure every child is well prepared to do whatever future they choose to pursue. These are very appropriate goals, but we do almost nothing to see if we are actually achieving those goals. We don't follow up with past graduates to see how they're doing. In this age of Facebook, cell phones, and email, I believe that it would be very inexpensive to follow up with our graduates and see exactly how well we're actually preparing them for their future. This critical information would allow us to not only measure whether or not we're achieving our goals, but would also provide feedback to improve our schools. Another area where feedback is needed is from parents. Our population is increasing, but our enrollment is decreasing. Why? Well, we need to understand why students are leaving our schools. Feedback in this area will be very helpful in improving our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Just so you're reminded that we have a series of questions. John will get the first chance, Steve, and Steve and John, so that they'll each have a chance. The first question, sort of the buzzword, is preparing students to be college and workforce ready. What does that mean to you? John, if you'd start, please.
Well, first of all, it means that we have to make sure that our students are fluent in the languages necessary to be successful. And what I mean by that is that our students need to be fluent in English, not only in writing, but also in speaking. They need to be able to concisely communicate what their thoughts are and what their needs are to their upper management when they do get into a career. And secondly, the language they need to be fluent in this age is mathematics. Mathematics is the language of technology, it's the language of science, it's the language of engineering, and it is a common language internationally. So they need to be fluent in math, and they need to be fluent in English. And I believe that's what our Common Core standards are leading us toward.
Steve, please.
Yes, I think exactly what John said is, in fact, what the Common Core standards are intended to do. And I personally think it's a good approach to modifying our educational program. But to be college and career ready means something different probably to each and every student. And if you intend to go to a four-year school, then you need to be prepared to compete with the other students going to that four-year school. And so that could mean a much higher level of achievement than another student who maybe has slightly lower goals who wants to go to a community college and be successful there would require perhaps a different skill set. So to me, it's a little difficult to come up with a precise prescription, but I think John actually summarized it pretty well in terms of the ability to speak, to write, to do fundamental mathematics, and to basically be able to compete with the other students at whatever level the student feels is appropriate for them.
Thank you. Steve, you can start with this one. With a history of declining enrollment, what are your ideas on closing a school site?
Well, if you accept the premise that enrollment decline is inevitable, then I don't think there's any choice that the district will be faced in the very near future of having to close one of the elementary school sites. The problem in the immediate future would be that you'd have to then shuffle those students around. And that will be somewhat difficult and put strains on the other two elementary schools and the middle school. But if you accept the reduced enrollment, I think it's inevitable. I don't particularly accept that enrollment will necessarily be decreasing, and one effort I would hope to do if I get on the school board would be try to address that issue more directly and see why our enrollment is decreasing when our population is in fact increasing. Why are parents choosing not to put their kids in our schools? So my first approach would be to try to see if we could offset or reduce or reverse that trend in declining enrollment. If we are unable to do that, then clearly closing a school would be inevitable.
John, please.
I do believe, looking at the data, that declining enrollment is a reality in the Big Bear Valley. The school facilities were built at a time when it was optimistic that enrollment was going to increase. We have a lot of schools that have maintenance operational issues, expenses. The board has to look at this very, very closely and determine what the risks and the benefits are of closing schools versus utilizing those schools for other activities.
John, this one's for you. To begin with, what do you think the district should do to communicate with and gain more support from parents and from the public at large?
Personally, I think parents are an extremely important aspect in our students' education. If we don't have parent engagement, if parents don't model the value of education, our students are not going to see that it's a benefit to them. So we need to encourage our adults, our parents to become engaged with what their students are trying to learn in school. Now, the other part of that question is our community. It's extremely important that our community takes hold of what's happening in the schools, supports those activities, and provides the knowledge and information that they personally have to help benefit the education of our students. And when I've gone out to schools, I've seen this happening. I've seen the community engagement. I've seen the parental involvement. And we have to continue to focus on ensuring that that continues to strengthen in the future.
When Measure M failed, I think a lot of people felt that that was a lack of support for the schools by the community, and I'm not sure that's true. And also, when they did the LCAP, they reached out to the community, to the parents, and of 2,500 roughly students, I think they had maybe 100 parents respond. I wish I had a real good solid prescription for how we could reverse that and get more parental involvement. The only thing that immediately comes to mind is trying to perhaps broaden the avenues where we approach parents and try to find ways to encourage them to interact with the district. And perhaps there is some reluctance on the part of some parents to get involved in the schools, but somehow we need to overcome that. I don't have a magic prescription for improving parental involvement, but I think it is something we clearly need to work for, okay, and try to achieve. In terms of the community involvement, well, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Steve, you get this one first. Looking at future trends in education, and with parents choosing alternative schools such as online and charter schools, what changes would you suggest for our school district?
That's a tough one. I went to the charter school presentation, and they were touting small class size, personalized attention, the fact that their teachers were not unionized and that they didn't have tenure. Many of those things are not available to the public school system. I mean, we are compelled to comply with the laws of the state of California. Reducing school size is very expensive. The only thing I can say is that we need to look at our programs and talk to our parents to see if our programs are aligned with what they feel is in the best interests of their children. And hopefully we can bring that into our district and modify our programs to be more aligned with what parents want. But there may just be a fact of life that there's a certain percentage of our parents who want a different experience that maybe we just can't provide in Bear Valley Unified.
Yeah, I do agree with a lot of what Steve said. And it is a problem that we have parents who are looking at alternative education systems, homeschooling, charter schools, private schools. What I believe is that the school district can open up the doors of the public schools and show all the wonderful things that they are doing and putting in place. And I personally believe that the resources of the public schools are broader than what the homeschooling and the charter schools can provide. And I think if parents saw what was taking place in the schools, as I have, I think they would see that class size notwithstanding, there are a lot of advantages to moving the students back into the public school. Now, on the other hand, there is the ability to utilize the public school in a combo setting and offer some courses at the public school that homeschools and charter schools can also participate in.
Thank you. As we all know, there are a myriad of websites about anything you want to study. You can find 100 websites that will give some analysis of that. But it appears that when you look at a myriad of websites, that Bear Valley Unified ranks somewhere in the middle. I'd like you to address the issue of what you would do to move Bear Valley Unified School District up so that it's one of the top districts in the state.
And I think that question has to do with utilizing technology and ensuring that technology is a part of the communication process as well as the education process in Bear Valley. And this has been identified, the lack of websites, the lack of internet access for Bear Valley schools has been cited as an issue. And the schools are actually looking at this and doing something about it. You can see technology growing in the classrooms. You can see the use of e-tablets in the classroom. You can see that those e-tablets are being utilized by the students, not only in the classroom, but they can be utilized online at home for home study. So I see technology as a growing and extremely important aspect in continuing to provide the quality education to our students.
I'm not sure I'm totally clear on the question. Are you implying that you want to know whether our website can be among the top in the state or our school district?
The performance of our schools could be at the top of the state.
The performance of our schools is directly related to the quality of education that we're providing. And that is so directly related to the ability of our teachers to do a good job in the classroom. And I think for the most part, our teachers are doing a good job. It may or may not be reflected in their test scores, because you're right, our test scores are fairly mediocre or average throughout, based on the state of California. How well we will do under the new proposed Smart Balance testing assessments that will be coming up in the future, it's hard to say. But I do believe that we need to be working with our principals and our coaches. The system that the Bear Valley Unified has is we have coaches that are designed, their job is to work with the teachers to try to help them improve and provide feedback to them to improve their classroom performance, and I would encourage that.
Steve, school security is obviously a concern for all of us. As you look at the schools, what would you do to ensure that our school sites are safe both for students and for staff?
I think our school sites are actually very safe, okay? So there is a certain level of perception of security or perception of insecurity. And to some extent, when you keep asking that question, people develop a sense of insecurity where, in fact, if you look at the statistics, our school sites are very safe. And there haven't been any real issues here. So I think the perception of security is more an issue than the actuality of security. So I don't believe there's any need for any significant beefing up, if you will, of security. There may be some additional camera locations for coverage that we don't have, but I certainly would not start building fences around all of our schools, because I think that would actually decrease the perception of security without significantly increasing the actual security. So the bottom line is I think our schools are pretty safe.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. I have now visited all the schools, and I have seen the security situations that they have. And yes, there are some areas where we can increase security. We can ensure that there are barriers between the incoming people onto the campus and the student population in general. Those are things that can and should be done. There also is a need, in my opinion, to add additional security cameras to many of the campuses to provide a certain level of security. But in the surveys that have been done talking to students, in the surveys that have been done talking to parents, there is a high regard for the actual safety of our schools in the Bear Valley District.
And the final question, John, we'll start with you. How will you use, if you were elected, how will you use the local control accountability plan as a roadmap to measure the progress during the next 3 years?
Yeah, that plan I was just introduced to recently, and I find a lot of value in that local community control plan. It really, what it does is it provides the discipline to the district to identify those needs in association with the goals of the district that they're going to pursue, and it provides a budget against those goals, and it becomes a scorecard that we can use to value the progress being made to achieve the goals that the district has set out. So I see a lot of value in that plan, and I think it should be used continuously to monitor the improvement of our district?
Steve, please.
Yeah, I guess I have a little different perspective than that. The LCAP is a good start, and I think as a framework for going forward, it is outstanding. What I think it lacks is measurability. A lot of the performance measures that are in that plan, I think, they don't go far enough to give us a real gauge as to whether we're making progress, and not that we're just presenting the teachers with information and we're counting that as achieving our goal, but we want to make sure that the change in behavior is actually getting translated down into the classroom. And so just saying, gee, we met our goal because we trained 10 teachers in the use of technology, what we really want to try to measure is how well the technology is being used in the classroom and how it's affecting student performance. And so I have some concerns that the LCAP, while being a good start, doesn't go far enough in terms of measurability.
Thank you. Now each candidate will have a chance to give a brief summary and final comments, and we'll start with John.
Thank you. So curriculum development, technology expansion, facility right sizing. These are difficult issues facing the district today. None of these issues are easy to solve. It will take disciplined board to assess the risks and rewards of any approach and forecast the benefits of decisions into the future. The board must be both thoughtful and bold, willing to listen yet avoid analysis paralysis. Your vote will give me the opportunity to apply my experience to give our students every chance to grow up and be responsible adults with the abilities and means to give back to our community and our nation. Remember, your vote matters. Thank you.
Steve, please.
Yes. I'll keep it short because it's late. If I'm elected to the school board, my priorities would be, first, to make certain that we are allocating our financial resources, which, like it or not, is the lifeblood of how the schools run, as effectively as possible. Dollars are limited, and every dollar counts. And one of the major roles of the school board is to make sure that we're allocating our resources effectively. Number two, to make sure that our schools are doing the best job possible in implementing the new Common Core state standards. Our graduates, we don't want to let our graduates be disadvantaged when the new Smart Balance testing comes out. So we need to be focused on the Common Core. Three, to implement a follow-up program with our graduates to measure how well we are actually preparing them for their future. I think that feedback to our district would be critical to improving our schools in the future. And finally, I think we need to address the falling enrollment by improving contact with parents and reaching out to try to understand why our enrollment is dropping and hopefully reverse that trend.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just a reminder, there are 2 open seats, 3 candidates running for those 2 seats. We thank you all for staying with us tonight. Let's give these gentlemen a nice hand for being with us. And thank you for coming with us this evening.
Yeah, Tim wasn't here when we first started, so I really wanted to reach out and say thank you, Tim. Thanks for all your support and putting this together. And as well as Michael, who really did 80% of the work. Thanks.